Me for the last live stream. We finna get back on this again. Yeah, we finna get back on this again. Hopefully the stream is a lot more smoother. We're gonna step outside real quick. Give me one moment and let me go grab my reading materials. Be right back. This gonna be a good one too. All right. Now you know me. I'll be liking y'all to take y'all notes. If you're not able to take your notes with me right now, you could always watch the live stream again. But I don't be playing when it comes to my notes. Okay. Now, to really grasp what I'm finna say, it's a couple things. Okay. Um, we know about the Sumerian civilization, right? It's supposedly one of the first civilizations that has physical documentation of how it came to be, and uh, it's some of the oldest language, Akkadian language. You know, some of the first writing that's been recorded or at least found in archaeological research. Okay, and the Sumerians were, because of this being a first civilization, they have a story that is very peculiar to me, and not just myself, but many people. And one thing that we have to remember before we delve into this subject is that, see, for me, I have come to realize that all of the cultures on earth, especially ancient ones, are special. They're peculiar and they should all be looked at a certain way. And one of the things that stuck out to me is most of the cultures of old and ancient are talking about the same beings, talking about the same time periods, talking about the same instances, but in their language and in different ways. Okay. And in modern times, we get so caught up with, oh man, don't pay attention to that culture. Don't pay attention to them folks over there. And we so stuck on who we are that we miss the bigger picture. So what your bro True Jew is seeking to do ultimately in this particular live stream when we're talking about the Anunnaki, yep, they're all talking about the same thing. That's right. They're all talking about the same thing, but from a different perspective. There was a movie that was released many years ago, maybe now 10, 12 years ago, maybe. I don't know if y'all remember it. I think who is the brother? Is it Forrest Whitaker? I think he's in it, and a couple other people. I think it's called Vantage Point. Don't quote me on that, but I think the movie's called Vantage Point, and it's about this crime that takes place. I think in Boston or New York or someplace, and the police and the authorities end up wanting these 9 or so witnesses to describe what happened in this crime. But each of the witnesses was seeing this thing happen from a different vantage point. So each one of their perspectives was different. So the feds or whoever the authorities were in this movie, they had to do the work of figuring out, okay, well, is this person telling the truth? Or it was just this what they saw from their vantage point, because everybody didn't have the same perspective. What's up, family? What's up, ordained for greatness? What it do? Good to see you, family. I'm thankful that you can make it. Yeah, I'm thankful that you could make it. Yeah. So they trying to figure out the different perspectives, right? And that's what we have to do. When we when we get into this truth, right? We have to look from as many perspectives as we can. And we have to try not to, when we're looking at those perspectives, allow the different nuances to cloud our judgment. Hopefully, those different perspectives will provide clarity to us. Okay. And so back to the Sumerian culture. The Sumerian culture has a story about Anunnaki, these so-called Anunnaki, who are they consider to be gods, right? And these gods come from heaven, and I'm going to touch on this, come from heaven, and they land in the area known as Mesopotamia. They land in the area known as Babylon. Present-day Iraq is what most archaeologists would basically say and agree to. Okay. Now, I want to say this. When the Sumerians first got wind and knowledge of these Anunnaki coming to them. They treated the Anunnaki as gods. And this is just one culture now, okay? And these Anunnaki, they were very technologically advanced, so much so to the point that they shared this knowledge and wisdom that they had with the culture in Sumeria. The Sumerians were then able to take these advancements, these technological advancements, and do great things with them. But we also know, based off of the biblical context of whatever this relationship was, and we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna do my best to remove all sorts of mystery from it. I wanna set this thing up a certain way. When the Sumerians got this knowledge, they began to, in a sense, worship these gods that they called the Anunnaki. And when we look at the Most High feelings towards Babylon or towards Mesopotamia, towards that area, we see that there was a lot of conflict. So much so that Babylon, moving forward, even though it was a great civilization from an earthly perspective, always have funk and problems with anyone associated with the Most High, right? We know about the Babylonian captivity of the Hebrew Israelites, for instance. And we know that Daniel spent a lot of time in Babylon. We know that the three Hebrew boys, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, were tried and tested in Babylon, right? In the furnace of affliction, right? And in this real furnace, where they were thrown into a furnace and they were spared and saved, and not a hair on their arms or on their heads was scorched by this heat. And if I'm correct, the spirit of Yahshua appeared to them and comforted them while they were even in the furnace. But the king of Babylon was totally thrown away by this. He was totally like, what in the world? I've never seen this. And as soon as Babylonian soldiers went into that furnace, they were scorched immediately, right? I hope y'all just stay with me on this. Stay with me on this. This is still about the Anunnaki. One thing about these Anunnaki that really got me, and it still gets me to this day when I listen to presentations like Ancient Aliens and that sort of thing, we never hear the story of the Anunnaki coming from anyone that looks like us. It's always from Grecian people, people from Greece, European people who want to dispel the Bible and not even bring it into the conversation. And because of this, they have a popular hold on what we receive through the media and through these presentations that would cause us not to want to go into the books of Enoch and Jubilees and Jasher, for instance, or into the Bible. And that's what we're going to do today. Because when you see, and Shabbat Shalom to all of my fam, oh man, hey, I'll be thanking y'all for rocking with your brother Chuju. I'm back. I'm back. Excuse me. All right, hold on. Let me go get my water real quick. Yeah, I gotta get my water, my Abazooty. That's gonna get turned up. All right, hold on. All right. All right, so look, where was I? When we look at what's going on with the media when it comes to this subject, it's always an attempt to throw us away from books like this, the book of Jasher, the book of Enoch, the book of Jubilees, and to get us out of the Bible. The wilderness be tripping sometimes, yeah, bruh. Hey, and look, when you in the wilderness and you doing the work of the Most High, at least calling yourself to, right? The YouTube back end folks that get, they get awareness of these live streams. It's a whole team, right? So they watch these live streams too, bruh, and they can flick how the buffering works. They can actually flip it. Okay, so it's like, do I want to give him the best buffering, or do I want to knock his buffering down? Like they can do that from the back end because they always get aware of what's happening from the front end of things. So that's real funny too. So listen, when I be telling y'all I love y'all to life and I thank y'all for rocking with this, I'm just trying my best to do a service for the Most High on behalf of y'all, on behalf of the Most High to y'all. And I just hope that the message be going through so that y'all can study the same way I study and get yourself, show yourself approved to the Most High. That's all I be wanting to do, y'all. That's all I be wanting to do. And it ain't always easy. I wish it was easy where I could just turn this thing on and not have to trip like that. But that's not really reality, too. When you in this spiritual war, you got to be ready and know that, hey, it's going to be some things that happen when you on your way to doing what you supposed to be doing, and it's going to try to block you and stop you. But that's just going to convict you to see if what you want to do is what you really want to do. Okay? So I really want to do this, and ain't nothing going to stop me, knock me down, keep me from delivering this good food to y'all. It's not going to happen. No, 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 no. If you were talking about something ratchet, then the YouTube people would they would give me the best reception. I made a joke about that. If I was talking about big booties and beach parties and all of this type of thing, oh yeah, I would get all the juice. You better believe it. But look, we're not talking about that. We talking about this real stuff. And one thing about the Anunnaki is that they deceived a lot of people. Okay, that's the part. Hey, you very welcome, Sister Cindy. You very welcome. Look, and thank you for being here too, y'all. Look, this is what you got to understand. Here we go. Let's get into it. The Sumerians presented this culture as in this incident that happened in their culture as something to be worshipped, as they were doing their best to pay homage to those who came from heaven and taught them all sorts of things that they never knew before. So if you look at it from their perspective, they were simply grateful to get a heads up, to get an advance, to be advanced through. But one thing that I find interesting about the Anunnaki and the Sumerian culture is that, once again, this is the earliest physical. Spiritual warfare is very real. Yes, ma'am. The Sumerians, one of the earliest in physical historical record, talk about Anunnaki coming down from heaven, right? And teaching them all wonders of things. But when I look at the biblical narrative, these Anunnaki are really the fallen angels. And the fallen angels taught all sorts of wonders to men as well. And not only did they teach all sorts of wonders, but they also lusted after the daughters of men on earth, just like the Sumerian Anunnaki did. And just like the Sumerians' account of the Anunnaki, there were great giants born to the daughters of men. Now, you have to remember something else. This culture of Sumeria, do y'all know what languages they spoke? They spoke Afro-Semitic languages. What is another Afro-Semitic language, y'all? Hebrew, Ugaritic. These are Afro-Semitic languages. Now, one thing you have to know about African languages, and I did a live or a study on this before, a video on this before. Maybe I could write this down real quick. Give me one. You know what? I was supposed to bring my big whiteboard out here, but I got a small little whiteboard in the form of this paper. All I'm gonna do is write our vowels: A, E, I, O, and U. Okay? I hope y'all can see this. A, E, I, O, and U. Those are our vowels in the English, in the Latin language, right? For English speakers, right? Well, in Africa, these same vowels are prevalent, but they're spoken differently. I really need y'all to grasp this. This is very important as well. So, A in English and Latin is ah. in African, in most African languages. Ah, ah, including Afro-Semitic language. Check this out. Now, E in English is A. It's not A like the letter A. E makes the A sound in Afro-Semitic and African languages. I is the E sound. I hope y'all follow me. O is O or A, okay, depending on what word you're saying. And U is not U, it's oo, oo. So if I were to say these in multiple African languages, RA is A, RE is A, RI is E, RO is O or A, and RU is oo. This is very important. Why is it important? Because when we start saying words like in English, el, E-L, that is really el, el. And when you start saying el, and then you go back to the Most High, Elion, Elion, then you start realizing, whoa, 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 wait a second. That sounds a lot like alien. Don't that sound a lot like alien in English? But it's Elion, Elion, Elion. Are y'all feeling this? Okay. What does this have to do with the Anunnaki though? This is where it gets very, very, very weird. But cool. So the Sumerians tell us that some Sumerians tell us that some beings came down from heaven, came down, taught them all sorts of wonders, this and that. Well, they also say that they came down because a war took place in the heavens and that they wanted to come down to men and they wanted to teach men certain things, right? Well, when I thought about this narrative that the Sumerians have, I got to thinking, perhaps these Anunnaki weren't gods at all. Perhaps they were fallen angels, and perhaps they didn't come down from heaven on their own, or perhaps they didn't come as so much as so they were kicked out of heaven. Remember, the Bible tells us that a third of the angels were kicked out of heaven because they waged war against the Most High and the angels that remained in heaven. When those angels were kicked out, they wanted to make themselves appear as gods to the people on earth who didn't know no better. And this is why I have an issue with the modern day presentation of the Anunnaki. Because if you read books pertaining to the Anunnaki, they'll tell you that the Anunnaki are the creators of the earthly man and civilization. That's a work of the devil, okay? Because the devil seeks to be like the Most High sitting on the throne of the Most High, okay? I hope y'all are hearing me. Now, this is just according to the Bible, what I'm saying about that. But it makes sense that individuals from a heavenly space would choose to come down here and then be excommunicated after this war in heaven. They chose to come down. The Most High is angry with them and excommunicates them from the heavenly spaces to where they can never return. Okay? So much so that the books of Enoch tell us that once Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel were charged as the four angels, they were charged as the four angels, archangels, who were given the responsibility to round up all of the fallen ones who chose to come down here and sleep with the daughters of men. Sumeria being one of the first areas that they fell to, they lied to the Sumerians and told them that they were gods, and the Sumerians worshiped and revered them as gods, not knowing any better or perhaps knowing better. But either way, they worshiped them as gods. And I'm going to show how the narrative switches from a Sumerian perspective into a Hebrew perspective and into an Israelite perspective, into because we're talking about Semitic. We're talking about the bloodline and the people of Shem, okay? The children of Shem. Shem, Shem. Okay, so I'm going to get into this Bible, into this book of Enoch, and I'm going to show you the narrative that's presented there. When I get to thinking about the Nephilim, for instance, the Nephilim are the children of the Anunnaki and the daughters of men. Okay, now these Nephilim were giants. Okay, and in the Bible, they're called Anakim, or the sons of Anak. Now, doesn't Anakim and Anunnaki sound very similar? This is where the wicked ones will try to throw you off and have you hating one culture or comparing one culture in ignorance toward another. See, when you realize that many of the same cultures were saying the same things, just in their language, it could then become easy to see how a word like Anunnaki in one language is the same as Anakim in another language, but spoken in a different dialect, spoken in a different tongue, belonging to the same language family, okay, or the same family of languages, I should say, meaning Afro-Semitic in this case. Now, that's why they sound the same. Now, one thing you're going to learn about your brother, True Jew, is that I don't do coincidences, okay? I don't do coincidences. I don't say things like coincidentally, this is like this, or this is like this. No, no, no. Everything is connected. Everything is for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. It's just that in our ignorance, our naivete, sometimes we don't know why these things are happening until they're revealed to us. So, it is my understanding that the Anunnaki are the fallen angels, but they deceive the world in appearing to be gods. And those who think that the Anunnaki are gods will also accept that story that they are our creators, like they want us to think. One thing about when the four archangels, Raphael, Michael, Uriel, and who else? Gabriel, when they rounded up all of the Anunnaki and the fallen angels and put them in bounds, those fallen angels were to be held for 70 generations. Something that always struck me as interesting was that if you look, when those 70 generations were up, they matched perfectly with this era's industrial age, the Industrial Revolution, where all of a sudden uh, the nation of America, the United States, began to have all of sorts of technological advances. And not just the United States, but the United States was one of the first on earth in this modern era to just bypass with technology. Okay? Within such a short span, we saw a replication from back then and today. So just as the time of old and the time of the ancients, where all of a sudden they got all these great technological advances, they learning how to make weapons of war. The women are learning about makeup and jewelry and all sorts of things to beautify themselves and cosmetics. And the men are learning how to make spears and swords and shields and learning all sorts of divination techniques and all sorts of spells and magical capabilities. Don't you find it interesting that as soon as we get to this modern era, the Industrial Revolution kicks off, and these same things are reintroduced into the world at such a rate that now I'm able to talk to you on a black faced phone and I'm able to spread a live stream. Went for riding horse for 1,000 years, and all of a sudden we're flying in rockets. How and why? Because the 70 generations has been up, and some of those Anunnaki have been released, and they went into the governments of men just like they did when they first touched down and have influenced men. Now, what's something interesting about the Nephilim is that once all those giants were killed, all of them weren't killed, but once the majority of them were killed, their spirits, their spirits were disembodied. And those spirits, I'm away, YouTube messing with us. Those spirits were disembodied, and it's those spirits that we call demons today. All right. Now, you know, I told y'all in my videos, I like to say things that inspire y'all to do the research. I like to inspire y'all to do your own thing so you don't got to take my word for it. And a lot of times, unless I'm coming from true experience, meaning true knowledge in the form of experience, excuse me, then I have to go off of all of my research and the things that are presented to me to be able to deliver a certain element of truth to you. This is where prayer comes in, and this is why I always pray before I go live, and I always pray after I go live. It's just one set of prayers of my day, because I ask the Most High to guide my speech, to guide my thoughts, to guide my heart, to make sure that the intent of the delivery of what I'm saying is as pure as possible, as strong as possible, and that it delivers what needs to be delivered so that y'all can be sparked in your mind to then go take these types of forms of information and look for yourself. Okay, that's I think, one of the most important elements of what's going on. So look, let's back up what I'm saying. If we go, and I found this interesting too, when you're in the book of Enoch, for instance, right, and you go to chapter 6 of the book of Enoch, and then you go into chapter 6 of the book of Genesis, they're saying dang near the same thing. The only difference is the book of Genesis is touching on the surface level of these things, while the book of Enoch goes deeply into it. So look, this is what we're going to do. Let's go to the book of Genesis first. And I got a whole bunch of food for y'all to back up what I'm saying. Now, we know about the Sumerian perspective on this, but let's go into the biblical perspective. And when I do this, see, you have to remember my stance on this. I'm a student of history. I hope to one day be able to go all over the world and confirm what I've shared with y'all from an archaeological perspective with a hands-on approach, right? But for right now, I have to deal with what I've been blessed with, which is a gift. I'm one of those, I'm one of those make a dollar out of 15 cents babies. Okay? I'm one of those babies. Okay? So I take what I'm given and I'll make the most of it. And I don't complain about it, or at least I do my very best not to complain about it, because complaint just takes us away from the focus of what we have. I like to focus on what I have, and I like to use it to the best of my abilities, okay? And I look, and when we do that, I've learned that there are hidden secrets in these things a lot of times. When we deal with what we've been given, there's so much in that little that it's actually a lot. And if we be all over the place, it's hard to pinpoint certain things a lot of times. So that's just some food for thought, all right? That's just some food for thought. But wickedness in the world begins well, we start looking at it in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Most High said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years old. What's that said? What you say? Hold on, let's see what you said there. That's right. There was a tremendous growth in technology and knowledge in a very short period of time. That's right. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. That's verse 4 of Genesis chapter 6, if y'all want to read along. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. So right there we see that these sons of God came to women, the daughters of men, married them, had children by them, and then produced an offspring called the Nephilim. This is very important, y'all. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. So we hear stories about Hercules and Jason and the Argonauts and all these half god, half human type people, right? Well, that was during those days, y'all. I hope y'all know this. Did y'all know that? Now, verse 5. The Most High saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth. Now, I'm going to show you why the wickedness prevailed, because the angels, the fallen angels who presented themselves as gods, taught all sorts of enchantments, all sorts of wickedness that humans weren't supposed to know to humans and to the daughters of men. And when these daughters of men begin to have these fallen angels' children, of course, the daughters and the fallen angels taught this to their offspring, and it began to be propagated throughout the earth. Now, check this out. The Most High saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Most High regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Most High said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Most High. Now, why did the Most High regret making these animals? The animals themselves were perfect until the fallen angels came and revealed all sorts of uh, genetic technology. Okay, there was a point on time, and I know in out here in the country where I'm at, you won't be hard pressed to see a mule in somebody's yard. Okay, a mule, something that seems as harmless as a mule, which is a donkey male mixed with a female horse. But did you know that a mule is an abomination to the Most High? Did you know that? A mule is not perfect in its genetics. And because a mule isn't perfect in its genetics, meaning able to reproduce, it's an abomination. Everything that can reproduce in and of itself brings joy to the Most High. This is why we are asked to be fruitful and multiply. Okay? This is why the herbs and the fruits and the vegetables are all good. But when the fallen angels came and taught men how to genetically splice and dice genomes and how to create these half beings of this and half beings of that, that is when the Most High had to look down and see the wickedness that was going on in the earth. See, in the days of Noah, this is why Yahushua told a side note that during the time of the end, we will know when the time of this civilization and era of this civilization is over, because it will be similar to the days of Noah. What was going on in the days of Noah? Have y'all been online and saw things like half pig, half goat? Have y'all seen these things? Have y'all seen these things? I saw something that blew me away. I saw a baby. I saw a goat with the face of a human in the body of a goat. Have y'all seen these things? Yes, and it's very troubling. This is the days of Noah. These days that we live in right now are paralleled from the days of Noah. And what else is particular about the days of Noah? There was a high level advanced technology. There was a high level of some sort of intrusion that took place on the earth. There was this form of insight that we hadn't always had. And isn't that what we're going through right now? There's all sorts of wickedness through the land. High, excuse me, high forms of wickedness. Aren't y'all paying attention to this and really look at it? Right? So look, let's go into the book of Enoch, chapter 6. First, I want to speak on chapter 2, verse 1 of Enoch, because this is what we're called to do. Observe, please you, observe everything that takes place in the heaven, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in the heaven. They all rise and set in order, each in its season, and transgress not against the appointed order. Behold you the earth, and give heed to the things which take place upon it from first to last. This is a commandment of the Most High. We have to learn how to look at the timeline of human history and be as precise as possible with these things. Looking at the different cultural timelines, being able to put them together so we get a full picture. It doesn't have to be a mysterious puzzle, as long as we keep our minds open to the different instances that we have all been privy to learning and incorporating into our knowledge bank, so that we can make the most sense out of such a troubling time as that we live in right now. Chapter 6 of Enoch tells us in verse 1, starting in verse 1. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful, beautiful, and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Simjaza, I hope y'all are hearing these names. Simjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. So Simjaza, he was like, look, now mind you, these are all males who are doing this. These are male angels who are doing this, mind you. Simjaza was like, hey, that's a great idea, y'all, but I feel like, look, I'm the only one that want to do this. Who else want to do this? Now, look how sly, look how I'm talking to y'all. I'm embodying this energy, right? He's up there like, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm rocking with that, but I don't want to be the only one to do this. So what does he do? He says that if I do this alone, I will be the one to have to pay a great price, right? So they all answered him and said, listen what they all said, y'all. The angels, that third of the angels who said, we gonna go down, aka the Anunnaki. Check this out. They said, let us all swear an oath and let us all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. So they all agreed, y'all. This is why earlier in this presentation I said, did they all willingly come down? Or if they did willingly come down, see, I speak like this so that y'all can think. I don't just want to give all the answers, you feel me? So I'm speaking like this for a reason. They said, did they all willingly come down? Or was it so that when they came down, they realized they would be excommunicated if they did so? So they had to formulate a narrative and a story to support what they did to the humans on Earth. And one of those things that they did was present themselves as gods. Now, check this out. Verse 5 of Enoch chapter 6. They swear, they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. Verse 6. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Yared or Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders. Check out these names, y'all. They some cold names. Bear with me. Samlazaz, their leader. Arakalba, Rameel, Kokablel, Tamlel, Ramleel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakiyal, Asael, Amaros, Batarel, Anainel, Zakael, Samsapeel, Satareel, Turel, Yomyael, Sareel. These are the names of the chiefs of tens. Chapter 7 of Enoch, verse 1. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go in unto them. That means have sexual relations, and to defile themselves with them. Now, this is where it gets funkier, y'all. Verse 2 of chapter 7 in the book of Enoch. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with herbs. And they became pregnant, and they bore great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. See, the giants, once they were born, they didn't eat regular food, y'all. You know what these giants ate? The children of the Anunnaki and the children of women who became known as Nephilim. You know what they ate? They ate normal-sized men. They were hungry for blood, y'all. Check this out. Human blood. Check this out. Verse 4, Enoch chapter 7. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation, against the lawless ones. And this is when men began to cry out unto the Most High, saying, "Oh, Most High, these beings are here. They're wicked. They're having relations with all sorts of creatures. They're killing us left and right. They're eating our brothers. They're eating our sisters as food. They're drinking the blood of your people. Please, Most High, help us. Save us, please. Remove the earth of these wicked beings. Please." This is what was happening. So this is what Genesis chapter 6 doesn't teach us. And this is why the modern day church tells us not to read the books of Enoch, for instance. And this is why the book of Enoch has not been canonized, right? Canonized. Listen, y'all, side note, whenever you're dealing with the Church of Rome, you have to remember that that is an extension of Satan. That is an extension of the devil. And they are going to do whatever they can to remove you from the truth, okay? They are in league with the fallen ones. Yep, that's why the English tale of Jack and the Beanstalk, fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Come on, Brother King. Come on, Brother Carlton Way. Exactly. See, it's those sorts of thoughts that you share with me is the reason why I love for y'all to think on your own as well, so that you can hit me with something as well, so that you can be a part of this talk as well. All right? Listen, the book of Genesis, or the Bible, does not include, well, this version of the Bible does not include the books of Enoch, Jubilees, Yasha, and all those sorts of books, because the Catholic Church has removed them so that we are not made aware of our truth on this earth and what's really going on. If we could see, what in the world? Just seen something roll by me. If we could see how the days of Noah were happening and what was taking place during those days, then we could do as Yahshua said. I wonder if that's the inspiration behind Attack on Titan. That is the inspiration. Those are the Greek and Romanized versions of this story. Remember, I started this saying that all cultures of the ancient days are telling the same story just from their perspective and telling the story from their tongue. Remember, I mentioned that? Well, that is the Attack on the Titans. The Titans was the war. So the Titans and their story is Elion, is the Most High. That's the Titans, okay? The Titans. All right, I'm glad you mentioned that. This might be difficult for some of y'all to understand. Side note, who said that statement? Sister Cindy. This might be difficult for y'all to understand, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm gonna say it. Y'all go do the due diligence and look for it. When we start talking about Yahweh, for instance, when we start talking about Yahweh, this is where, if anyone has ever read the Bible, especially the Old Covenant, aka Old Testament, it's very difficult not to see some strange humanly traits that Yahweh exhibits. And even in the form of like jealousy and envy and like humanly traits, right? This is where the truth gets real strange. And I want y'all to look at this yourself. Yahweh can exhibit these things because Yahweh is a son of Elion, of El. This is why we see El mentioned in the book, and then right after we could see Yahweh mentioned in the book. I really want y'all to pay attention to this. As we've been taught the book from a Christian perspective, we were taught they was all the same person. We was taught they was all the same being. That's why you don't hear Jewish people talking too much about this. When they read the Hebrew and they have their Masoretic text and they're reading, it's closed lipped. They want so-called Christians to believe whatever so-called Christians want to believe. But if you sat down and you talked with a Jewish person and he was telling you the truth about what was in that Bible, you would see that these are different beings. This is why Yahshua, don't you find it funny that Yahweh is not mentioned in the new covenant? Yahweh is never mentioned in the new covenant, in the New Testament. Don't y'all find that interesting? Don't you find it interesting that when Yahshua is in the Garden of Gethsemane, he doesn't cry out, Yahweh, Yahweh, labak shamaktani. Yahweh, Yahweh, labak. He doesn't cry out that way, does he? Does he? Does he? No. Yahshua cries out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That's what Yahshua cries out in the Garden of Gethsemane. How come he doesn't shout out Yahweh? Well, because part of Yahshua's mission here was to realign the Israelites with the truth of El, the Father. You want to know something else? Don't take my word for it. Real quick, I know we talking about this real quick because it was brought up about the Titans. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 and 9. Since we talking about this, go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8 and 9, where we read, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of El. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob, Jacob, is the lot of his Yahweh inheritance. Woohoo! Did y'all hear that? Right there in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8 and 9 is one of the first instances where we get a clear separation of El and Yahweh. El being the father and Yahweh being one of the father's sons who receives an inheritance of people. That inheritance that Yahweh received, that inheritance of people of a nation that Yahweh received, were the children of Jacob, the children of Israel. Whoa, they don't teach that in Sunday school, do they? No, they teach us that El and Yahweh are the same. I know it's a shocker. Oh, my brain. Nah, y'all rocking with Bruh True Jew. Come on now. You got to look for yourself. Whew. How about Psalm 33? I did, and how did I miss that all those years? I'm thankful for y'all. Y'all not the normal ones, okay? Y'all set apart. Look, I'm also talking to people who eventually see this live stream as well, y'all. Y'all rock with your bro, okay? Psalm 33, verse 12, just to even back what I just set up again. Blessed is the nation whose God is Yahweh, and the people whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance. Now, he didn't much choose that nation of Israelites as his inheritance, as it was bestowed upon him by El, the Father. Elyon. Elyon is not the same as Yahweh. And see, this is one thing that the nations of old clearly understood, that El had sons, had children. The Elohim, what was that passage again? Okay, go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 and 9. You can also go to Psalm chapter 33, verse 12. You can go to Isaiah chapter 19, verse 24. Let me see if there's any more. Once you get, that's what I had in my notes right now. Once you get the keywords inheritance, that's a key word. So then you can begin to check your concordance or Google inheritance, and you'll begin to see a separation, okay, of El versus Yahweh. And this is why Yahshua always said, me and my father are one. He never said me and Yahweh are one. He always said me and the Father are one. Then who does he shout out in the Garden of Gethsemane? The Father. El, Eli, Eli, Shabbatani. My God, my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? He's not saying Yahweh, Yahweh, lama sabachthani. He's saying Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Starting to make sense now, ain't it, y'all? All right, let's get back on these Anunnaki, though. Because, see, the Anunnaki, they're the fallen angels. They're in league with the devil. And they have chosen to present themselves as gods to throw us off. See, the modern day narrative about the Anunnaki is that they are creators. Don't you believe that lie, y'all? Because if you believe that the Anunnaki are our creators, what will you then do? You will move away from a biblical narrative of truth, and you will begin to worship the Anunnaki as your creators and not the Most High. That's all a ploy of the devil, because the devil seeks to destroy and devour as a raging lion. And part of that devouring tendency is to remove the true children of the Most High away from the potentiality of their salvation and away from the glory of the Most High. And to take these individuals and make them his children. And if we make ourselves the devil's children, we will be doing a great disservice not only to ourselves, but to the representation of light, which is supposed to stand strong in this era, particularly in looking for the kingdom of the Most High to come. Okay? So look, let's go back into chapter 8 of the book of Enoch, verse 1. And then we're going to go down to verse 9, or chapter 9, because what I want to do is get deeper into the narrative of these fallen ones and then go back into the Bible, because this is all biblical, but to go back into this book and highlight a few verses for you so that you can see that, okay, in the Bible, it's surface level. And you really have to dig deep in order to get the full narrative. And that's what I'm doing right now through the book of Enoch for all of you. So check this out. Remember I told you how, all right, so let's go back to the Bible. Let's go to Genesis chapter 6. And let's go back to verse 1 and 2 and 3 and 5. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any one of them they chose. Then the Most High said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Most High saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was to do evil all the time. The Most High regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Most High said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Most High. Now, when we go back to the book of Enoch, chapter 7, the last the last two verses, and they begin to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish and to devour one another's flesh and to drink the blood, and the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Now we see how that lines up. You see? Now, What is this wickedness and the heart of evil all the time that Genesis chapter 6 verse 5 is talking about? Well, we're about to see in the book of Enoch chapter 8, starting at verse 1. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. Verse 2 of chapter 8 of the book of Enoch. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and many were led astray and became corrupt in all of their ways. Semyaza taught enchantments and cutting of roots. Amaros, the resolving of enchantments. Barakiyal taught astrology. Kokabel, the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Arakiel, the signs of the earth. Shamsiel, the signs of the sun. And Sariel, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. Chapter 9 of the book of Enoch begins as such. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth. Remember, I told y'all that those four archangels was looking down, and they was given the command from the Most High to bound these lawless ones, these Anunnaki, for 70 generations. Well, that's coming up right now. And all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. So starting again at verse 1 of chapter 9 of the book of Enoch. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said one to another, the earth made without inhabitant cries, the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Most High of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, the God of the ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and the name holy, and thy name holy, and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. This is what the angels is saying. Check this out. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in thy sight, and thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what Azazel has done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were kept in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Semyaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost not say to us what we ought to do to them in regard to these things. Chapter 10. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One spake, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, go to Noah and tell him in my name, hide yourself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And the Most High said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. Let me keep going. Hold on. I want to see one thing where it talks about the 70 generations. You know what? I might as well keep going. Let me keep going. And on the day, this is verse 6 of chapter 10, the book of Enoch. And on the day of the great judgment, he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all the sin. And to Gabriel, saith the Most High, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For the length of days shall they not have, and no request that they their fathers make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf. For they hope to live in eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Most High said unto Michael, go bind Semyaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, until the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison, in which they shall be confined forever. And whoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations, and destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, aka Anunnaki, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all evil from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end, and let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then shall the righteous escape, and shall live until they beget thousands of children, and all the days of their youth and their old age shall they complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be covered in righteousness, and shall all be planted with trees and be full of blessing. And all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines on it, and the vine which they plant thereon shall yield wine in abundance. And as for all the seed which is sown thereon, each measure of it shall bear 1,000, and each measure of olives shall yield 10 presses of oil. So I'm going to stop there. It's a few more verses in that chapter, but I want to go into the Bible real quick. All right. In the book of Numbers. So y'all see that it's some funky stuff going on. Now, the book of Numbers, this takes place after the flood, when the children of Israel have left Egypt. Okay? Check this out. I referenced this chapter, Numbers chapter 13, because this is talking about the children of Enoch. This is talking about the Nephilim. All right? To prove to you that over many different cultures, the Anunnaki had a wide spread. Okay? And when you see the biblical narrative versus the Sumerian one, you will begin to realize that, wait a second here, we're not supposed to worship these things as gods. Nah, we ain't supposed to do that. They're actually enemies of the Most High who presented themselves as gods to be worshipped because they wanted to be like the Most High. They are not our creators. Check this out. They're actually fallen angels. Check this out, y'all. In the book of Numbers, starting at Numbers chapter 13, verse 22, we read, they went up through Negev, and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. Going to chapter 13. Now, this is when the Israelites have been led to the land of Canaan, and they are searching and exploring the places that are going to eventually be their land lot of an inheritance, okay? But the Israelite men are afraid. Let me tell you why. Because of who they see in the land of Canaan. Check this out. In Numbers 13, verse 28, we read, let's start at 27. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. Verse 28. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Enoch there. Remember, Enoch are the Anunnaki, just in a different language. Okay? The descendants of Enoch are there. Now, who are these descendants? The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea along the Jordan. Verse 33. No, let's keep going through 30. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But let you hear what they got to say about that. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So the Israelite men who went to explore the land of Canaan came across the sons of Anak in these humongous cities, and they saw that, whoa, we're not going to be able to take these dudes down. They are giants, and we're like grasshoppers compared to them. Now, are y'all seeing how this narrative in Numbers correlates with what we just read in the book of Enoch and also correlates with what we read in Genesis chapter 6? It's getting a little more deeper because now we're starting to see, whoa, wait a second. If we compare this to the narrative that we received from Sumeria, the Sumerians wanted to worship these dudes. But when we see the account from the Hebrew Israelites, which is the Old Testament, we see that his Hebrew Israelites was led against these dudes. Are y'all seeing? I hope y'all are seeing. Listen, this is why the Bible, side note, this is why when we give up on the Bible, like from a standpoint of, man, I don't understand this thing, man, so I ain't dealing with it. That's one of the biggest mistakes we can make. That's one of the biggest mistakes we can make. Because when you start being able to really learn the Bible in truth, you can see how deep it actually is, and how the narrative that we were taught in Christianity, in Christianity, is so far away from the truth, it ain't even funny. And when you are given the eyes to see the truth as it really is, then you can be like, whoa, there's still a lot I don't know. There's still a lot that I haven't learned in this Bible. And if I would have turned my back on it, I would have missed so much. The things that make you feel weird and strange when you read the Bible, like I was mentioning, even about Yahweh, it's like, whoa, bruh, like, man, are you sure about that? Just read it for yourself. That's the part that I'm really trying to promote here. When a pastor, a preacher is standing in front of you telling you what it is, and then telling you you're gonna go to hell if you think anything outside of this, that's totally different. It's gonna stop you from digging deep. Or a pastor and a preacher is just repeating the same narrative he was taught, and then when you ask the serious questions, he's like, oh, son, don't you worry about that. You don't worry about that part of the Bible. You just do what I'm telling you, and all that. Come on now, that removes power from you, and you were made powerful. You were supposed to be able to get this information and learn the truth, and that's all I'm seeking to do. I'm giving you where to look. I'm providing it to you as it was provided through me, and I'm just hoping that y'all see the light. Look, in Deuteronomy chapter 1, let me go to that real quick. Verse 28. Check this out. In Deuteronomy, hold on. Hold on, let me get to it. I don't want my papers flying around either, y'all. Give me a minute. I be having a lot of papers. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 28. We're talking about the Amorites again, right? And we're talking about the Amalekites and the Anakites, the Anakites, and all of these people, right? Check this out. Verse 28. We read, oh, excuse me. I got this over here. Excuse me. Let me start at verse 26. This is a rebellion against the Most High. But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Most High, your God. You grumbled in your tents and said, the Most High hates us. So he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us unto the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made our hearts melt in fear. They say, the people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large, with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there. Verse 29, then I said to you, do not be terrified, do not be afraid of them. The Most High, your El, your God, who is going before you, will fight for you, as he did for you in Egypt, before your very eyes and in the wilderness. Okay? What I'm doing here is doing my best to highlight to you that there's another leg of this narrative that has been suppressed. And when we watch shows like Ancient Aliens today, they SMDES, what does that mean, family? What does they SMDES mean? And go ahead and leave me what that means. But when we start to see shows like Ancient Aliens, they want to throw us off from the narrative of the Bible, and they want to give us a different narrative, because if they can show their narrative's proof through their narrative outside of the Bible and away from the Bible, that will give them an opportunity to dispel the Bible altogether. But if they show the narrative as coming from the Bible as well, then that gives credibility to the Bible, which means that other aspects of the Bible must also be true too. And if other aspects of the Bible are true, little ones, in the era that this narrative took place, then that will also mean the Israelite people are true. And if the Israelite people are real and true, then that means the Israelite people are still on this earth today. And if the Israelite people are still on this earth today, that means Yahshua was true. And if Yahshua was true, then that means the end of this era is going to be true as real. And that means that all of those people who were not called Israelites, all of those people who were enslaved, all of those people who had these horrible curses placed onto them, who were spread across across the face of the earth, that means that they too will be gathered again during this period. And if they, who were spread across the face of this earth, who were these people enslaved in the transatlantic slave trade? Who are these people enslaved in the Trans-Arabian slave trade after the Great Exodus? And I'm going to do a live on this. The Bantu migration, listen to me now. The Bantu migration was really the Hebrew Israelite Exodus. The way that we see Africa now on a European map is not the way our ancestors saw Africa. And I'm going to get into that later, not today, but later. Just know that the Bantu migration was really the Hebrew Exodus, the Israelite Exodus. And it was after that Exodus that all of the true Israelites were captured by the sons of Ishmael, by the Arabs, by the Muslims, and sold into slavery through the Trans-Arabian slave trade. And it was by the Portuguese that got wind of the Israelites as the northern or southern Africans of Morocco and of Libya went into Europe and told the Portuguese where the Israelites were in Africa. And the Israelites on the so-called western shores of Africa were rounded up and sold into slavery into South and Central and North America, including the Caribbean. How do you think a lot of us got here? Now, I'm not talking about the ones of us who were already here in this country, because the ones of us who were already here in this country were enslaved by those who came over the Bering Strait and who now primarily call themselves Native Americans to this day. Woo! Woo! But let's get back on the Anunnaki. So look, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 10 and 11 state, the Emites used to live there, a people strong and numerous, and as tall as the Anakites. Like the Anakites, they too were considered Rephaites. Now, who are the Rephaites? All of these are children of the Anunnaki, but different family groups that were spread out, okay? But the Moabites called them Amites. Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out. They destroyed the Horites from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel did in the land the Most High gave them as their possession. Then we read in Deuteronomy 2, verse 21. One moment. Let's start at verse 20. That too was considered a land of the Rephaites. They used to live there, but the Ammonites called them Zamzumites. They were a people strong and numerous, and as tall as the Anakites. The Most High destroyed them from before the Ammonites, who drove them out and settled in their place. The Most High had done the same for the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They drove them out and have lived in their place to this day. And as for the Arbites, who lived in the villages as far as Gaza, the Captorites coming out from Captor destroyed them and settled in their place. We read about the defeat of Og, king of Bashan. You can read about that in Deuteronomy chapter 3. I'll give you a little something though. Verse 3. So the Most High our God also gave into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and all his army. We struck them down, leaving no survivors. So this is like a first-hand account, like if you was reading someone's journal. We struck them down, leaving no survivors. At that time, we took all his cities. There was not one of the 60 cities that we did not take from them. The whole region of Argob, Og's kingdom in Bashan, All these kingdoms were fortified with high walls and with gates and bars, high walls and with gates and bars. And there were also a great many unwalled villages. We completely destroyed them, as we had done with Sihon, king of Heshbon, destroying every city, men, women, and children. But all the livestock and the plunder from their cities we carried off for ourselves. So at that time, we took from these two cities of the Amorites the territory east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge as far as Mount Hermon. Hermon is called Sirion by the Sidonians. The Amorites call it Senir. We took all the towns on the plateau, and all Gilead, and all Bashan as far as Salekah and Edrei, towns of Og's kingdom in Bashan. Og, king of Bashan, was the last of the Rephaites. His bed was decorated with iron and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. It is still in Rebah of the Ammonites. So you see, right there, we're talking about a huge, gigantic, large people. And their descendants ruled in the lands until they were removed and defeated. The book of Judges, it doesn't stop, y'all. If you just know where to look in the Bible, you will see that the so-called Anunnaki are really the fallen angels, and that their children were given rulership until those children were defeated, until those children were removed. Now, when we talk about demons, we're talking about the disembodied spirits of the fallen angels' children. And those spirits still move throughout the earth to this day. That is where the technology was able to come back. Those demons present themselves as gray aliens today. Those demons are in league with the shadow governments of the world in order to make war and wage war not only against us, but against the Most High. Listen, y'all, don't it all start making sense now? Check this out. Judges chapter 1, verse 20 states, as Moses has promised, Hebron was given to Caleb, who drove from it the 3 sons of Anak. The Benjamites, however, did not drive out the Jebusites, who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live there with the Benjamites. So it's just going in to say, okay, there's definitely a narrative where we're talking about these people being driven out, being driven away. But who are these people? They're the descendants of the Anunnaki. Now, what happened to the Anunnaki? We read in the book of Enoch that the 4 archangels, Michael, Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel, bound those angels up, those fallen ones, for 70 generations. But they was going to be made to be released, many of them. And that is what we are seeing. Them in league with their children. The demons are running around here and got the earth on one right now. Other places you can go to read about this narrative are the the book of Joshua, chapter 11, verses 21 through 22. The book of Joshua, chapter 14, verse 12. The book of Joshua, chapter 14, verse 15. The book of Joshua, chapter 15, verses 13 through 14, and the book of Joshua, chapter 21, verse 11. Look, I hope this live stream was beneficial for y'all. I truly do. Remember, as the Most High guides my speech, as the Holy Spirit washes over me and continues to lead me, I'm listening to me too. Okay? It's wild like that, but I'm listening to me too. And the more that I speak this type of dissertation and dialogue, the more I realize the code words and keywords involved with the transliteration. Okay, meaning that there's a certain narrative in literature. I see that it's going in and out. I'll give it a chance. Let me just take a sip of water real quick. Ah, yes, indeed, family. That song is very cool. Are you talking about the song based off of let me see. what is it? Psalm. Let's see. Is it Psalm? Well, weep by the willows. I know that Psalms weeping by the willows. Let me see. Is that Psalm verse 87? Hold on, let me see. This one is one of the songs in me. Hold on. Weeping in the willows. Well, I'll leave it in the description of this video when I find it. But I remember that song too. They made a good song from it. Or the song. Yeah, I forgot. I'm having a little what they call a brain fart. I forgot. It'll come back to me though. But the point of what I was saying was we have to look at this thing to the best of our capabilities, using everything that we can have at our expense, at our disposal, but making sure that we check the intent. Oh, sorry, Cindy is spelled here. Okay. Oh, you're talking to Sister Cindy. Okay. Yeah, so when I look at everything that we've been presented with, the best that I could do is check the intention of those who present whatever it is that's being presented. And when I realize that there's a narrative that wants to take us away from the Bible instead of anchoring us in the Bible, oh, cool. I thought, man, that is some really hidden knowledge. I can Google about anything. But that was a blank. Yeah. So, like, Google everything that you can based off of your research in order to confirm what it is you're actually looking for and use as many different resource banks as possible. But my advice, depending on what your goal is in life and depending on what it is you're actually seeking to do, I would anchor in the books of the Bible because just for me, this is an ancestral book that details the time from the beginning to this time that we're living in right now. And so I just think that it's important, y'all, to just stay sharp, not allow people to throw you off. But everything that I got today from this study was from these books. And I know that there are many people who want to read the pages of these books, and there's many interpretations of these books, and there's many different versions, which brought me back to transliteration. Transliteration is taking a narrative from one culture and translating it into another culture. When we do that many times, thank you, brother. When we do that many times, the cultural um, the cultural perspective is lost. So there's more study, there's more responsibility on us because we have to now look at the culture which the transliteration actually came from. And once we can identify the culture, for real, once we identify the culture, and thank you all as well, once we identify the culture, then we can begin to identify the juice behind it. Okay? And we're so far removed from our Israelite culture in this America, in this modern era, that it can be difficult at times. But that's why the Bible tells us that the children of Israel, one moment, y'all, let the truck go by, it's kind of loud. It tells us that during the time of the end, the children will be wakened up. That the children of the Most High here, the princes and princesses of the power, will be awakened and we will begin prophesying and we will begin seeing visions and dreams. We are asked to cry aloud. We are asked to go into the lost sheep of the house of Israel. We are asked to truly fast, which is going to the oppressed, which is feeding the hungry, which is clothing the needy. And maybe I'll do a study on that one as well, what it means to truly fast today. I feeling I will. Most High willing, I think I will because that's important. We have to really get back to a sense of levity. And the reason there's so much confusion, especially when it comes to this book, It's because so many non-Israelites are teaching it. And when it's coming from the Queen of England, a King James perspective, I'm just keeping it 100 with y'all. You have to be cognizant that there's going to be some misdirection in that. And it's sad for all of those who have given up on this Bible because of the publishing company who owns it. Instead of listening to their hearts and really digging as deeply as they can and learning how to read in between the lines. And this is something that you might have to pray for. Some of us are gifted this, but many of us are not. And that's why many of us aren't called to be teachers. Because, I always crack up when I think about church and I think about that collection plate going around. And the funny thing about it is, when you're a true Israelite, first of all, you know that the true priests of Israel belong to the Levitical house. They belong to the sons of Levi, through Benjamin. And then you realize that true tithes were never money. It was never dollars. It was never coins. It was never boats. It was never planes. It was never designer clothes. It was never jewelry. Oh, man. It was always the increase, the 10% increase of whatever crops we raised. It was always the increase, the 10% increase of whatever livestock that we raised and that we reared up. And that is how the Levitical priesthood was able to feed themselves, because they were too busy writing and studying the scrolls and being the judges that all of the rest of the Israelite family needed in order to stay on the straight and narrow. And now today, you have a pastor talking about, hey, brother, hey, sister, leave me a love offering. Leave me a this and a that. And just for the record, have y'all ever heard your brother True Jew ask y'all for any of that stuff? No, and you haven't, and you won't. You won't. Because I'm very well aware of my blessings coming from on high, one. And two, I'm aware of the true tithe. So I would never ask you to donate a love offering to me, because the true love offering, or the true offering, was always in the form of crops and livestock. And we so removed from the farmland today. No, none of us have no crops and livestock on a great scale like that. Okay, so it's all good. Hold on. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me, y'all. I've been talking. That's why it's time to wrap this live up. But look, I want to thank y'all. Thank the Most High for granting us this opportunity to be able to come together on this Shabbat. I hope it was a truly Shabbat Shalom, a Shalom, a rest day of peace, and that y'all was fed good spiritual food, the real soul food, okay? This the real soul food right here. I pray that y'all receive this word. And during those moments, I'm very well aware that I had some moments during this live stream that were difficult, especially pertaining to Yahweh. I know it's difficult, especially pertaining to Yahshua's cry in the Garden of Gethsemane, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, versus Yahweh, Yahweh, lama sabachthani, and what that actually means. And then you can begin to see why so-called Jewish people today don't subscribe to the New Testament, because Yahweh, their guy, isn't in it. And I know it's difficult. It's difficult, y'all. But for me personally, I like to be in alignment with the Most High. For me personally, I have to go to the top. I'm not one of those dudes who like to deal with the underlings and all of that. Just, I know that's uncomfortable because we was taught a different narrative. So I'm very sympathetic and empathetic to that. Okay, real talk. So I don't want to come across as being a know-it-all, or come across as somebody that isn't sensitive to these things. It's just that it's been so many years of study for me, and there's been so much marination and thought about these things in my personal study and my personal time, that when I have these sorts of discussions and things begin to be brought together, even for me, that spirit just be guiding me to talk, y'all, and I'm letting it all out. And so when I have the scriptural resources and references to back it up, then it's like, wow, all right, well, I got to make a decision myself. Either I'm hearing the brother out and I'm going to go do this due diligence for myself, or I'm just going to totally shut down and not listen to it, or I'm just going to accept everything he's saying. Well, I hope you do the due diligence for yourself. That's why I reference these books. You know, I want to do my best to put them all together. Yeah, I gotta go to the source on mine too. So look, I love y'all to life always. Please have a beautiful afternoon, depending on where you are. A beautiful evening, depending on where you are. Sweet dreams, sweet visions. Continue to be obedient to the Most High. Continue to answer that call in your life. Continue to walk that straight and narrow path. Continue not to be afraid. Continue to move in bravery and courage. You're very welcome, Sister Cindy. Continue to move in uprightness and righteousness. Always remember, I love you to life, not death. I love you to life. And stay blessed always. Stay vigilant always. Most High Mama and Papa willing, I'll be back with another one. But until then, gone.